Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. So today, going to do the recap from Saturday, November 13th. We had 3 main events. There's also one undercard fight I'd like to talk about. You had some other fighters, solid prospects on the rise, but I just went with the main event action that took place. You had 2 DAZN main events, and you had a Showtime main event. So I'll go in order. I'll start with the DAZN main event that took place earlier in the day. And it saw Kid Galahad defend his featherweight title in what was supposed to be a homecoming. He was coming back following about a 3-month layoff, but I mean, he hadn't fought in a while prior to that, and he captured his first world title pretty much with ease in August of this year, beating DAZN in a rematch and capturing the first world title. And really, this was just to kind of put a stamp on the year that he fought twice, and just to get that first title defense out of the way. And he was dominating and even hurt the veteran Kiko Martinez, but and he was dominating for the first 4 rounds. He was dominating, just pretty much just outboxing, outclassing. It really wasn't close. And then boom, this is the consummate example of all it takes is one, and don't count out your former champs and veterans like Kiko Martinez, a guy who always comes to fight no matter what. He might have 10 losses on his resume, but so what? Because he came out and shined, and he scored a monster knockdown in the 5th round that hurt Galahad badly. And it was right at the end of the 5th round, so Galahad really didn't have any time to recover. His corner got him back out off his stool and got him back in there, and then right away, one identical right hand down the middle laid Galahad out, and the referee waved it off. And Kiko Martinez, the veteran who came in a monster underdog, comes and scores a huge win and a huge upset, knocking out Kid Galahad, handing Galahad only his 2nd loss of his career, and definitely his first knockout of his career in dramatic fashion, as Martinez becomes a 2-division world champion. And to be honest, Martinez had that run he had when he became champion was a solid one. He had like 3 impressive knockout wins before he lost the title to Carl Frampton in their rematch. But I mean, this was just a shocker, and this definitely is the biggest win of Kiko Martinez's career. And big ups to Kiko Martinez for coming in, believing in himself, and just being a road warrior and a hog. I mean, and to be fearless like that, I mean, that to me is impressive, that you come in and you're just absolutely fearless and don't care that you're on the road, and you can just land a punch like that out of nowhere. That's veteran. It was veteran technique, and it was also a big mistake by that a lot of boxers do. They'll be dominating the fight, and then they'll either lean in or they'll back straight up. They'll put their head straight back, and they get caught. And Kiko Martinez, just put Galahad away with a bullet. Huge knockout win, and he is now the IBF featherweight champion of the world. So we'll get into both guys what's next later on next week, probably early next week. But man, what a win for Kiko Martinez. Got to hand it to him. Then the other main event that was also on DAZN, that one took place later in the evening, and that was a middleweight showdown between undefeated former junior middleweight champion and top middleweight contender Jaime Munguia, as he took on Gabriel Rosado, the veteran former world title challenger, who was coming down from 168, where he damn near got robbed in a lot of people's eyes against Daniel Jacobs last year by a split decision. And then earlier this year, in June, actually on Munguia's undercard, he scored an upset 3rd-round knockout victory over undefeated Bektamir Melikuziev, who is a highly touted prospect on the rise, was knocking everybody out, even hurt Rosado and put him down at the end of the 1st round. But Rosado timed him and caught him with a clean right hand at the end of the 3rd round and face planted Melikuziev. So, Rosado lost the weight, came back down to 160, was 10 years the senior of Jaime Munguia, and Munguia came in the favorite, but people were like, well, you never know against a veteran like Rosado. Munguia, though, did a great job of boxing and punching. I know a lot of people think that Munguia is just a brawler, and he gets hit a lot, and he does. It's his style. But he can take punches pretty well, that's one. And he's becoming a better boxer, and he hits with such brute force. He's a big middleweight that this guy can be effective, I think, against anybody. Now, if he gets caught, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody catches him and hurts him. And he's been hurt. He got hurt against Spike O'Sullivan. But he's also been in there with some big punchers. And Rosado caught him with some good, clean shots throughout the fight. But Munguia was just relentless. He kept coming. He kept pounding. And he was also doing a lot of jabbing his way in. A lot of 1-2s and body punches. So he's not just one-dimensional. And that's what I like about him. So, an impressive performance. He ended up walking away with a clean 12-round unanimous decision in this one. A nice win for Munguia. Good way to get the rounds in, to prove that he could do it for 12 rounds and not tire out. And, my hat's off to Gabe Rosado. That is not easy at 35 years old to lose weight back down to 160 and take on a young and hungry lion who hits hard like Jaime Munguia. So, big ups to Gabriel Rosado. He fought with all his heart, came up a little short, and big ups to the undefeated Jaime Munguia, as he really proved to everybody that he's legit and he belongs in this, in the mix here and at the top of 160 pounds. Hopefully we see something else, something bigger next. We'll get into his what's next also on Monday. But big win, Jaime Munguia. Congratulations on that decision. And then the last card we talk about is the Showtime card, where it's basically a double hitter. It had the Benavidez brothers returning home to Phoenix, Arizona to put their, to test themselves, and Jose Benavidez was returning for the first time in over 3 years since he got knocked out against Terrence Crawford, and it was essentially a middleweight fight. And I'm sorry, anybody that watched this fight and thought it was even close is tripping, because Emmanuel Torres completely outboxed Benavidez. Jose Benavidez fought hard, don't get me wrong. He fought hard. He brought the fight. He was landing some good, solid body shots and everything, and he was landing good headshots once in a while. But this Emmanuel Torres was just boxing beautifully, and he was hitting Benavidez every time he came in, and he backed him off quite a few times. He's not a big power puncher, Torres, but he was hitting hard enough to keep Benavidez off of him in a full-on onslaught. And I thought he deserved 7 out of 10 in that area, 8 out of 10 rounds. And the fact that they called this fight a draw is just a complete hometown decision. And Jose Benavidez should feel lucky. But be that as it may, I do think Jose Benavidez will be a solid 154-pound contender. Emmanuel Torres, he might be able to be one too. You never know. But it was an entertaining fight for 10 rounds. But in the main event, we had David Benavidez, the undefeated former two-time super middleweight champion of the world. He took on Kyron Davis, who took the fight on 2 weeks' notice because original opponent and former champ Jose Ustadegi had to back out of the fight. And Benavidez did not disappoint. He came in and just came right at Davis. But Davis showed a ton of heart. I mean, my hat's off to this guy. He kept throwing back, and when it looked like he was going to get stopped, he kept throwing. He kept throwing back, and he was landing good shots too. It's just he doesn't pack that kind of power to hurt Benavidez, but he was trying, and he fought his ass off, and Benavidez had to really give him some love afterwards and everything, and I was glad to see that, because you got to hand it to Davis. That dude just gave it his all in that one, and it was just a good, solid performance by both fighters. Benavidez kept coming and put the pressure on, and eventually got the stoppage win in the 7th round. But for Davis to perform like that and go 7 rounds with that kind of onslaught coming at him was impressive. And now Benavidez, who is already the WBC's #1 contender, is, if the WBC mandates it, he's in line next for Canelo, for the WBC champion. So we'll see what happens. Canelo's the undisputed champ now. There's really, at 168, in all reality, there is nobody else for Canelo to fight that means anything at 168 right now, and that's the truth. But there are guys with names at 160 that Canelo could invite up and take on. And those might be better options for Canelo next over Benavidez. Personally, I don't want to see Benavidez and Canelo until 175 pounds, because there's a couple flaws I see in Benavidez still. He does get hit quite a bit, and I think part of him not being as dominant as he was to begin with is because he's trying to cut that weight and make that weight. That weight wasn't a problem a couple years ago, maybe 3-4 years ago when he first became a name. It didn't seem like the weight at 168 was a problem, but we always knew he was a big guy in this weight class. But now that weight just seems, it seems to be affecting him. We know he lost his title last year because he did not make weight, and that hurt him. So now we're gonna see how he bounces back from that. And if Canelo wants to give him a shot, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Canelo did, but I really think it's a fight that needs to be built up a little bit more, and maybe it belongs at 175. But we'll see. We'll get into more of that when we do the what's next on David Benavidez, and that's it. That's the recap from that's the Showtime and the 2 DAZN main event recaps from Saturday, November 13th. I hope you guys enjoyed it. True Boxing, you've been hit with the truth.